Alright guys, this vlog is going to talk about the difference between what we used to have as far as making our lists in 6th edition, what we know as the Combined Arms Detachment, and what GW has kind of been putting out a lot lately in their recent codex updates, being formations. Which one is better? And there's no really right or wrong answer, but I'm going to break it down and tell you what I think of the two. Now, of course, with Combined Arms, we'll start with Combined Arms, I guess, backtracking a little bit. With Combined Arms Detachment, your basic bare minimum requirements is 1 HQ and 2 troop choices. Pretty much straightforward. Then you have some more optional, but at the same time you are also limited to how many you could take in particular slots. For example, you're only limited to a maximum of 3 fast attack slots or 3 heavy support slots. And that can make a difference, especially when we're talking games point-wise at 1500 points or higher. And it can really play havoc with you when you're doing 2000 point games. Because then you have to actually pick and choose exactly which units, what direction do you want your army to go. And that can even change depending on who your opponent is and what they're bringing to the table. So for example, my list may vary differently from running Space Marines going up against Necrons, whereas it could vary differently than if I was running my Space Marines versus Chaos or Tau or a fellow Space Marine player. Now, one of the upsides to a Combined Arms Detachment, and this is especially true if you're playing the Maelstrom missions of objective secured. And that is a huge thing where in objective-based games, and it doesn't have to be the Maelstrom of War missions. You could create your own game, which is perfectly alright. But anything objective-based, say your opponent has a squad of Terminators, or a Devastator squad, or Lich Guard squad. You know, fast attack, heavy support, elite, sitting on an objective. Your troop choices would actually override that. So that is a huge deal when it comes to point-based games or objective-based game. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about formations, the formations and the main codexes I look at when I think of formations mainly Eldar, Necrons, Space Marines. Because they've got some pretty good formations. Generally, it'll in your main formation book, well, main formation, it usually will have a section called, or a special rule, for objective secured. Now, I do not have my codex in front of me, but for the most part, when it says objective secure, it's not just limiting to your troop choices. It's every model that's in that formation gets objective secured. Now the upside and downside to formations is, and I'm going to point out the Necron Decurion, for example. Love that main formation. But you have to have certain requirements. You have to have an HQ. You have to have X many troops. X many fast attack. It gives you a requirement of what you have to field. Now, if you're getting started in 40K, as in you're brand new, you haven't played a game, in fact you're wanting to get in, you've played some skirmishes, maybe you've got a buddy or two that's into it, and they let you use some of their models for a skirmish, and that's all she wrote. That's pretty much all you needed to say, yep, I'm all in. And you want to play a particular army. And again, we'll say Necrons, just for lack of a better argument. And you're thinking, I have no idea what to do, what to get. Well, first off, you're okay with getting a kit or two of Necron warriors. Because for the cost, 12 warriors, 3 scarab bases. Kind of feels like a steal. But if you bought the codex and you're looking through it, and you're like, this Decurion detachment looks pretty good. It's already got outlined there for you what you need to bring. And if I remember right, I think it's 1 or 2 squads of Necron warriors, squad of Immortals, a squad of Tomb Blades, and I think that's it. But with certain, and Necrons and even the new Space Marine Codex, if you run that main detachment, that main formation, either the Demi-Battle Company for Marines or the Decurion for Necrons, it also gives a requirement of you have to run an auxiliary formation, which is additional stuff. But they're good stuff. I've got a couple of them for my Necrons. I've got quite a bit for my Marines. I haven't gotten to play yet with the play around with the formations for my Marines yet. But I've played around with a couple for Necrons, and I think they're pretty good. But which is better? Combined arms or formations and detachments? Really, I want to say it's purely situational. I think if you're going to play in a small point game, 500, 750, maybe 1,000, I think you can be alright doing combined arms. If you do anything higher than that, 1,000 and up, might be worth looking into detachments and the formations. Because you never know what your opponent is going to be, what your opponent will bring. So if you can already have certain elements already in place, And then all you need to do is choose the supporting roles. Then you've already got a pretty good leg up on your opponent. Not to say that I'm not saying that you'll win the fight, but it gives you a better idea of, here's what I've got, and here's the strategy I can do. Here's my opponent, here's what he's got. Compare what you have versus what he has, strengths, weaknesses in both armies, and you kind of can counterbalance it. Here in the next few vlogs, I'm going to kind of go through and break down some of the codexes and go through what's good, what's not so good, even go over the formations and the auxiliaries. And unfortunately, I can only do the codexes I have. Not that I don't want to give love to the other armies, but I gotta do what what I actually have the means for. And plus, we're on the verge of getting a new codex release for Tau, so it will be definitely interesting to see what they are going to do in that regards, and how they're going to play with future updates, and how these formations and auxiliary formations, how they actually play into the future of 40K.